That's weird. Not audio, sorry. Normally streams don't start as soon as I start one. Like I have to input a fucking like stream code or whatever in order for this shit to connect, but I guess not this time. Not sure why. But hello everybody and welcome. Let me see if I can fix the audio properties. Let me set this up to here. Test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Just want to make sure that this is working properly. Hello, Judy. Good to see you. me 1 minute because I'm actually gonna play something quick. I want to see how this sounds.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time to jump back into Jordan's story. And, last time we left off, it was pretty intense. I mean, he discovered that Vivian, the girl he was falling for, she wasn't who he thought she was at all.
Yeah, that was a huge reveal.
Right. To think all that time, he was developing feelings for someone who wasn't even alive.
It's a really unsettling concept, and this document, Reveal Aftermath, this is where things get even more interesting.
Totally. So this document, it talks about what happens next, the aftermath of Jordan finding out the truth.
Hmm.
It doesn't give an exact time frame for when Vivian might try to contact him again, which is kind of creepy when you think about it.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like, will she try to reach out right away? Or is she going to wait and let Jordan just stew in this realization, maybe even start to doubt his own sanity?
That's a good point. That waiting period, it could be a tactic, a way to make Jordan even more vulnerable, more desperate before she makes her next move.
It's chilling. And meanwhile, poor Jordan, he's dealing with this massive emotional fallout. I mean, he's grieving for someone he cared about. But at the same time, he's got to be freaking out about the fact that he was, well, basically in a relationship with a ghost.
It's a lot to process, for sure. Do you think someone in his situation would try to get professional help?
I would hope so. I mean, wouldn't you? I can't imagine the kind of distress he must be feeling, the fear of going crazy, you know? He might need some serious guidance just to make sure he isn't losing his mind.
Right, you would think so. But then again, that plays right into Vivian's potential plan.
Oh, that's right. Because
Yeah,
if he starts acting strangely or talks about seeing a therapist,
exactly. She can use that crazy label against him. Sadly, the stigma around mental health is still very real.
and it could prevent him from getting the help he needs. It's scary how easily she could manipulate that situation. And it gets even worse. Welcome back, everyone. It's time to jump back into.
Oh, hey, welcome. What's up?
So I know I said to start on the reveal aftermath document. Can we just start on the first section and work our way down the bullet points?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So we're diving into the possible time spans section.
Exactly. We're going to break down how the timeline affects things,
Okay, so it looks like the first possibility is same time.
meaning no real time to grieve or process anything.
Right. Jordan's still emotionally charged in this scenario.
And Vivian? Well, she might see that as an opportunity.
The document says she may speak because Jordan is easier to manipulate.
When he's all emotional, it's like she has the upper hand,
Or she might want a confrontation right off the bat.
just to keep him off balance, I guess.
Okay, what's next on the timeline?
Same day, a little time has passed,
Gives Jordan a little time to ease from the shock.
but not much, right? I wonder how much that really matters.
Maybe enough for Vivian to give him some room.
To get past that initial shock, like the document says,
Let's move on to next day. More time to process the shock.
little to no sleep, grieving and confused, man.
Yeah, so maybe she speaks now to give Jordan more cool off time.
But enough about that. Let's move on to the next one.
All right, next up we have few days.
That's like shock.
Yep, go on.
As you're going through these, can you actually give your commentary on each?
Of course, we can definitely do that for you.
Absolutely. We're here for it.
Okay, so back to same time, no time to grieve.
Right. He's still reeling from the shock of it all.
And that makes him vulnerable.
Like a deer in the headlights.
Exactly. So is that it's brutal.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like Vivian's preying on his pain.
Okay, moving on to same day, a little time has passed.
What do you think is going on in Jordan's head?
Maybe he's trying to make sense of it all.
But it's still so fresh.
My take, he's probably in denial.
Oh, for sure. Definitely some denial happening.
Okay, nexto, even more time to process.
But now he's exhausted, confused, probably can't sleep.
He is at his lowest.
She could manipulate him.
Absolutely, this is the perfect moment to pounce.
All right, next up is few days.
Now the shock is turning into confusion. So interesting.
Ooh, a regular Sherlock Holmes.
The document suggests she might actually enjoy that.
Watching him try to figure things out.
A cat and mouse game.
That's probably when he starts investigating her death.
Will Jordan find out she donated her body to science?
That's a huge turning point if he does.
And will he start blaming Zentero Medical?
It all depends on the investigation.
All right, last up we have longer.
Tries to move on, but still grieving.
Maybe Vivian speaks because she wants to startle him,
After he lets his guard down.
or to get a fresher start at conversation.
This is the long game. She will wait to strike.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the timeline.
Definitely. So many factors at play.
So many. And speaking of questions, there are more in the doc.
Excellent. What do we got?
Does investigating Vivian's death give him closure?
Or is the situation too crazy to allow for that?
How long does it take him to move on with his life?
And what is Vivian's response depending on the time span?
All right, let's move on to striking back.
No.
When does it start? I
I
get.
think it means when.
Ah, yeah,
I want you guys to discuss your own opinions about the questions that I provided.
Absolutely, we can do that.
We're happy to give you our insights.
Okay, so the first question is, does investigating Vivian's death give Jordan closure?
Or is the situation too crazy for that?
I honestly think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, closure is tough to come by in a situation like this.
He might find some answers, some sense of what happened.
But will he ever truly understand it? I don't know.
And the craziness, it's just so pervasive.
It's like trying to find a clear signal through static.
What do you think?
I agree. I think it'll bring some answers, but no real closure.
Okay, next question. How long does it take him to move on?
That's a tough one. Everyone grieves differently.
Especially after something this traumatic.
Years, maybe. Or maybe he never fully moves on.
What do you think?
I think he'll always carry it with him.
As a scar, maybe?
Yeah, but scars can fade, right?
True. And finally, what is Vivian's response, depending on the time?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm not saying he's going to completely move on with his life, but more just trying to figure out when he starts trying to put his life back together.
Oh, I get you. So, like, when does he start functioning again?
That's a really important distinction. It's not about forgetting.
It's about finding a new normal, right?
Exactly. The document mentions the possibility of therapy,
And it says that if he does, he knows he needs help.
which could lead to him getting help sooner for later symptoms.
So if he goes to therapy sooner rather than later.
And if he doesn't, it could take him longer to back on track.
So when he starts trying to put his life back together.
And if he takes longer, she bides her time.
She's always watching, always waiting.
Okay, let's move on to striking back.
Where does it start?
I think it means when.
Oh, go for it.
So you looked at the psychologist and
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So you looked at the psychologist and psychiatrist section for grief. Could we go to the psychosis section next?
Of course, we can absolutely jump to the psychosis section.
I was wondering when we would get to this part.
I think it is important to see how she affects his mind.
Okay, so in this section it says hallucinations begin.
Right, after Jordan realizes Vivian is a hallucination.
The document notes that the frequency is slow at first.
But they get worse down the line, as you might expect.
It brings up a really good point about the interferences.
That they are infrequent enough to let his guard down.
Exactly. It's like she's lulling him into a false sense of security.
Before hitting him with something even more intense later on.
There are some good questions here in this section, too.
Does Vivian influence him to avoid psychiatrists?
That's a big one, right?
I mean, if she can convince him not to seek help.
Then she has free rein to mess with his mind.
The document outlines that this allows her influence to increase.
And there's that whole stigma around mental health, too.
Which Vivian could totally exploit to her advantage.
It's better to have me around, she might say.
But what if he does seek treatment?
That's the other side of the coin, right?
If he seeks it sooner, then he can get help sooner.
It mentions Jordan realizing he needs help.
That breaking point, if he hasn't received it already.
I think that breaking point is when he can't take it.
And there is another question, too.
Does Vivian induce any paranoia during this period?
The document has ideas, like people know something is wrong.
Or people think he's a freak and don't want to interact.
That would mess with anyone's head.
The paranoia and hallucinations will build up on him.
Okay, let's go back to the striking back section.
We were wondering, when does it start?
Yeah.
Let's do antipsychotics first.
All right, let's dive into the antipsychotic section then.
I'm curious about this.
So many questions here.
When Jordan is diagnosed, is he given solely Seroquel?
Or are there additional drugs provided?
And if so, what other drugs are provided?
So many possibilities and questions.
Maybe he is given an antidepressant as well.
That's a good question.
How long has Jordan been experiencing symptoms?
Before being prescribed?
Is there a time requirement before a psychiatrist will prescribe antipsychotics?
What finally causes Jordan to get help?
If he's been holding off on treatment?
Another good point. What side effects does he experience?
And how do those side effects impact him?
The relief section is good too. So how long does relief...
Oh, back to our listener. What's up?
No, let's keep looking at more of the questions from the section.
Of course, we can totally keep digging into these questions.
There are a ton of them out.
Oh, yeah,
I'll let you know this now. I want you guys to dig into every single question.
Absolutely. We will dig into every single question for you.
Okay, you are the boss. Let's do it.
Okay, back to the list.
We were just about to get to this one.
Does Vivian cause any paranoia at this stage?
Or that people think he's a freak.
And don't want to interact with him.
Ooh, those are both really unsettling
Sweet.
thoughts.
I think so
Fun.
too.
What do his parents think of the situation?
Are they aware of the medications he is on?
And what's their reaction to all of this?
That could affect his mental state significantly.
Especially if they're unsupportive.
So many layers to this, right?
Yeah, and how much does he tell them?
What about this one? How long does relief last?
Until she returns.
And does Jordan seek help again?
You know, how long until the next crisis?
So does Jordan decide to up his meds?
Without a physician's orders.
Just to try and stop the chaos?
That seems like a bad move, right?
Definitely risky.
Or does he go back to treatment out of panic?
That could be a turning point.
If he sticks with the treatment this time.
It's also important to know how effective they are.
Does Vivian cause any paranoia at this stage?
We sort of talked about that one already. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Can we look at the question that starts with the phrase, how does lowered anxiety and emotional reactivity?
Absolutely. I see it. It's right here.
Let's dig in. How does lowered anxiety
And emotional reactivity, the effects of Seroquel?
affect the likelihood of seeking additional medications?
When symptoms do return, that's the question.
It's like, does he stress less over Vivian's presence?
Because the drugs are working.
Does he grow used to her?
Like she is just a part of his life now.
Does this lead to normalization of symptoms?
Where he doesn't feel the need to up his medications.
Because it's just his normal now.
I think that's super dangerous.
It is. It's like accepting the unacceptable.
This document is bringing up some tough questions.
It really is.
Okay, there's some more questions in that area to cover.
I guess we should cover them, huh?
Definitely. We don't want to leave any stone unturned.
So let's see. There's one last question.
Oh yeah, this one's a doozy.
Does it lead to symptom normalization?
Where he doesn't feel the need to up his meds.
Like he accepts it as his new reality.
That's an interesting thing to think about.
It really is.
Well, that about does it for the questions.
I guess we can strike back now.
And not get struck back.
That's an interesting turn.
It sure is.
Let's bring it back to striking back.
We were wondering, when does it start?
Does Jordan try to end the connection early on?
Or does it take him some time to find the strength?
I think it depends on how desperate he gets.
I also wonder, does he get any assistance?
Like from therapy?
The manipulation tactics document has some details.
So is he actively fighting back?
Or just passively resisting her influence?
What tactics does he use?
Is it sarcasm, overprotection, or gaslighting?
Does he try to turn her tactics back on her?
Now, it has got some good ways to make someone wait.
What about slippery slope?
Can he jump to conclusions about what could happen?
Is he trying to minimize the problem?
Maybe just trying to make it go away.
There is also undermining or condescension.
Does he try to make her feel small?
Or does he take unsolicited advice?
You know, sneaky advice that she does not want.
Or can she get him to do things?
Like pre-consensual decision-making.
Before he even realizes what he's agreed to.
No, just enough to get her way.
And can he do that?
Can she guilt-trip him to try and get her way?
Or bring up past mistakes to try and manipulate him?
Or does she abuse truisms to try and win arguments?
Wow, that's a lot to consider when you take it all in.
Right. It's like a chess match.
With so many possibilities.
Well, that about wraps things up for today.
Thanks for joining us and sharing your thoughts.
We really appreciate you tuning in and joining us.